Okay, everyone, I'm told that we are approaching the number of expected respondees, so we will begin the program officially. Everybody, welcome. Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Krulowich on behalf of the board of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society. I'd like to welcome you all, those who are here present at the Lakin Auditorium on the campus of the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis, and all those joining via Zoom from around the state and across the country. Before beginning today's reception recognition ceremony, I would like to thank and acknowledge the Hoosier Jewish Legends Committee members, Chair Sheila Greenwald, Marcia Goldstein, Gail Halprin, Sarah Ann Warner, Elaine Zuckerman, Lori Moss, Lori Katz, Rochelle Greenwald, and all other volunteers who donated their time and efforts to this year's program. I'd also like to offer a heartfelt refuah shalema to our Vice President of Membership and Legends Committee member, Barbara Goldman, as she regains her strength and spirit. I would also like to thank this year's judges panel and all those individuals and families that submitted stories for consideration for this year's awards. Without your continued interest and support for the Hoosier Jewish Legends program, we would not be able to share these wonderful examples of significant contributions made to Indiana Jewish heritage and to your communities. I'd like to thank all those individuals, donors, foundations, organizations whose continued generous funding and support make this and all of our programming and operations possible. The Hoosier Jewish Legends program directly supports IJHS's mission to collect, preserve, publish, and share the history of the Jewish experience in Indiana. The goal of the Society is to promote interest in and preserve the history of the Jewish experience of Indiana. We do this by collecting and preserving materials by or about the Jews of Indiana, publishing articles and books, celebrating significant Indiana Jewish stories, recording oral histories of Jewish community members and leaders, and archiving them for future generations to access. We maintain an active membership of people and organizations from all over the state and across the country. We publish a quarterly newsletter, and we maintain our website and an active social media presence for your convenience. We conduct programs in your community to raise awareness of topics of special interest and of importance to you. All of our materials are included and are accessible through the Society's archives, which are housed at the Indiana Historical Society in Indianapolis. Our entire collection is accessible for interested individuals and organizations. I would now like to introduce our new Executive Director, Michael Brown, but first, let me thank and acknowledge the efforts of our contributions of our past director, Dr. Wendy Soltz, and wish her a mazel tov on her appointment as a full-time professor of history at Ball State University. Michael joins IJHS as only its third director, bringing his love of Jewish heritage and culture. He's a member of Sinai Synagogue in South Bend and was former executive director of the Hillel of Southern Illinois University. Michael comes to the position with significant background in Jewish history, programming, innovation, and volunteer work. Please join me in welcoming Michael to the program.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Dear friends of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society, thank you to everyone attending today to honor our Hoosier Jewish Legends. I'm sincerely honored and privileged to be here attending the 5th annual Hoosier Jewish Legends induction ceremony. And as the 4th executive director of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society since our founding in 1972. I would like to thank Dr. Wendy Soltz for all of her hard work as the previous executive director of the IJHS. Ball State University is gaining a tremendously dedicated historian and academic researcher. This year, the IJHS is embarking on expanding our virtual programming, offering a monthly lunch and learn and a Jewish history book club. We hope to see you at our virtual programming. Dr. and Rabbi Jacob Rader Marcus became one of the first trailblazers in American Jewish historical research and founded the American Jewish Archives in Cincinnati. Dr. Rader Marcus once warmly said of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society, "Indiana Jewry has a story to tell, and the IJHS is beginning to tell it." We today continue to tell the story of those who made exemplary commitments and contributions to our Jewish community and to the betterment of the state of Indiana at large. The Hoosier Jewish Legends will be inducted in the Indiana Jewish Historical Society's Hall of Fame. However, you have always been enshrined in our hearts and our memories to those you touched and positively affected. I want to thank all of our attendees, the families, and friends of those being honored today. Our volunteers made this event a reality despite the pandemic. This year, let us commit ourselves to save our collective Indiana Jewish memory, to preserve it for future generations, to hear and record the stories of how we became the Jews of Hoosier land. I believe we're living in a time of the acceleration of history. That is why we must record those most vulnerable connections that we have with the past. One wonders what it was like in 1921. After 3 years of an awful pandemic, how did Hoosier Jews feel then? Perhaps it will give us a coming attraction trailer to what it will look like when we finally reopen safely our beloved community centers, synagogues, and schools. In the meantime, let us learn and explore the Indiana Jewish history that brought us to this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. I would also like to recognize our programming partner for today's recognition awards, the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis, and thank Ms. Debbie Barton Grant, Executive Director, and her staff, Stephanie Delat and Michael Smoger, and others for making today's Zoom program possible. Debbie?
Thank you so much, Kevin. It is truly my honor to welcome all of you today. It's exciting to actually see a handful of Indiana Jewish Historical Society members here in person at the Lakin Auditorium, and it's wonderful to see all of you online. As a lifelong Hoosier and a student of Jewish history, I am just so proud that the Federation is partnering with the Indiana Jewish Historical Society today. I just want to take a quick moment to recognize the honorees that we're honoring today. I grew up with Rabbi Shuback in Munster and Sheila Greenwald with BBYO, and consider both of them as mentors that kind of put me on this path of Jewish communal service and working here in Indianapolis. So mazel tov to our award winners, all of them today. I'm looking forward to learning from all of you about the incredible leaders that we're honoring. So thank you very much, Kevin, and enjoy your day today.
Thank you. And now I'd like to turn things over to our MC for today's program, Ms. Sarah Ann Warner.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very, very much. It's wonderful to be here today, even under these circumstances, to honor 5 Jewish Hoosiers. Our first honoree is Dr. Ann Gileados. Ann's work in the Jewish community, the interfaith community, and the greater Muncie community is impressive. Serving as president of Temple Bethel for nearly 2 decades demonstrates a strong commitment to sustaining Jewish life in Indiana. Her desire to reach out to people of other faiths helps to foster greater understanding. Her work as a physician, teacher, and volunteer also shows, as one Fritz said, she is the role model for living a Jewish life of selflessness and humility. Another friend said about Ann, she is to me everyone's Jewish mom, always present, always organizing, and handing out duties. Ann is clearly a powerful voice in the Muncie community. Her role as a medical doctor was vital to the residents of Muncie until her retirement in 2015. She specialized in pediatrics for over 35 years. Ann is one of those rare people who are destined to leave a lasting legacy in their community. For this, she has been chosen as a Hoosier Jewish legend. Congratulations, Ann.
Thank you. First, I want to say many thanks to Mark Greenberg and Robert Phillip for nominating me, and to the Indiana Jewish Historical Society for accepting me for this award. I concluded when I was very young, after watching my father have a heart attack, that there had to be a purpose to my life, that I had to be useful. Throughout my life, I've adopted certain innate Jewish values, such as Hillel's pithy summary of the Torah and Pekuach Nefesh, he who saves a life, it is as though he saved the entire world, the utmost importance of life. I decided to become a physician in a time when female physicians were in the great minority. There were many obstacles, from my mother, who wanted me to be a teacher so I could have a family, which she thought could not happen if I were a physician. Thank God my father told me to do whatever I wanted to do. To bias against women in medicine at the time and on all levels. I was fortunate to be able to obtain an excellent education from the city and the state of New York at the Bronx High School of Science, the City College of New York, the State University of New York Downstate Medical College, and the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. I am extremely grateful that the first two of these were absolutely free, and that medical school was relatively inexpensive compared to private schools. My parents were immigrants who fled Austria during the Holocaust. We could have never afforded either college or medical school otherwise. I practiced pediatrics at the Mount Sinai Hospital, New York, the Martin Army Hospital in Fort Benning, Georgia, and then came to Muncie, Indiana. My husband, children, and I moved to Muncie in 1980, where I initially opened a solo pediatric practice. Being a solo pediatrician was very difficult, with night call and weekends all the time, and 2 young children, and a husband who was a busy surgeon and always at the hospital. Eventually, I was able to get other pediatricians to join me, and life got a bit more manageable. I am so grateful to the parents who brought their children to me and allowed them to become part of my life and for me to become part of theirs. It was a great privilege to care for all these children, both in their well child care and when they were ill, whether very serious or minor, and to watch them grow and develop from newborn infant to young adult. Besides practicing medicine, I have taught pediatrics to residents and medical students during my entire career. It has been a pleasure and an honor to be able to pass on the skills and knowledge that others taught me. I have worked in many committees and organizations to better the lives of children in my community, including the Indiana chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Prevent Child Abuse Council of Delaware County since it was started. In 2001, the president of Temple Bethel, Muncie, Indiana, who had been president on and off for about 10 years, could not continue. He was pretty desperate to find someone to replace him. Because I had had some experience in running committees, having been on our local hospital's credentials and executives committees for many years, eventually chairing them, I felt I might be able to chair the board of Temple Bethel. I volunteered and was elected for a 2-year term. This turned into 18 years when no one else was willing to be president of the temple. It was definitely a lot of work, especially along with a busy pediatric practice and teaching responsibilities. However, I felt quite strongly that a Jewish presence was an absolute necessity in East Central Indiana, and that Temple Beth El Muncie had to continue to exist and thrive. I want to thank Dr. Marilyn Nathan, who volunteered to be the vice president of Temple Beth El during the years that I was president. Her good counsel and help was absolutely invaluable. I also want to thank Mark Greenberg, who received this award previously, for his dedication and hard work for Temple Beth El, and also as a fireman protecting the greater community. During my time as president, we expanded our role in the wider community, initially partnering with the Muncie Islamic community for programs and dinners, and eventually including many other faiths and the local university's Peace and Conflict Studies Center. Despite dealing with lots of problems and personalities, I feel honored to have been president of Temple Beth El for those 18 years. I want to thank my husband, Dr. John Eliades, for his unfailing support for any endeavor that I took on. I am definitely no legend, but I have tried my best to positively contribute to my community, my profession, and our ongoing Jewish heritage in Indiana. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ann. Our second recipient is Rabbi Julius Shoeback. Given his beginnings in life, he managed to take a horrible situation and turn it into a lesson for all to learn from. His sense of commitment and kindness to all was very clear in the testimonials provided in his application. His connection to anyone he seemed to come in contact with was remarkable. The friendships and mentoring he shared with so many was very special to everyone. He kept the congregations going despite the dwindling members. Giving girls the ability to have a bat mitzvah was a vision he made a reality. His almost 50 years of leadership in the Calumet region and East Chicago made him truly a wonderful selection as a Hoosier Jewish legend. Accepting for Rabbi Julius is his son, Fred.
Thanks so much. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the Indiana Jewish Historical Society for honoring my father, the late Rabbi Julius Shoeback, as the first inductee from the Calumet region into the Hoosier Jewish Legends Hall of Fame. Rabbi Shuback dedicated almost 50 years to his synagogue, his congregants, and to the citizens and the city of East Chicago, not exactly a place that you would consider a bastion of Judaism. The opening line of an article about him shortly after his passing in 2005 summed up his professional life quite well. Rabbi Julius Shoeback was dedicated to his vocation, considered the voice of the Jewish community, and friend and confidant to many in Northwest Indiana. But I also wanted to thank the Society not only for the opportunity to observe one of the 10 Commandments honoring my father, but also because this whole process allowed me to find out many things about my dad that I never knew before. I have a number of contemporaries who refuse to join Facebook because, in their own words, they don't need the world to know what they're going to eat for dinner. But I found the website to be a wonderful spot to connect with others, including former East Chicago congregants, friends from the city, and even the granddaughter of one of the most unlikely guys to ever become president of the shul. And Debbie, since you're out there, you should know Max, your grandfather, was a real character. And when I saw that the Society encouraged applicants to submit testimonials on behalf of the nominees, I posted on Facebook a request for memories of my dad. The response was overwhelming. So many people had so many fond memories and nice things to say about him. And I could talk a lot about my dad himself, but instead, I thought I would let you hear what a couple of these people had to say about him. First, a former congregant. My first memories of Rabbi Shuback were when I sat with my family in our ordained pew. I would listen to the deep, rich baritone vibrato of Rabbi's amazing operatic chanting. It was like being at the Metropolitan Opera at every service. Yes, His self-authored sermons were often somewhat long for us younger children, but he delivered them with poetic language and vivid descriptions that even the youngest children could understand. I remember Rabbi as being more than just our rabbi. He was a member of every family who belonged to the synagogue and to the extended members of the family of those congregants as well. He knew all of my visiting aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents personally and greeted them by name when they would attend services and life events. Rabbi easily kept the attention of his students as he used wit and humor to make a point or to just make us laugh. His Charlie Chaplin mustache would take on a life of its own as he hardly laughed at his own jokes. He would often exaggerate his quick, typical shuffle with a sudden kick to his own tuchus. Rabbi exploded in joy at the birth of babies, b'nai mitzvot, and weddings of his kids. I was thrilled when he agreed to co-officiate at my wedding, and so glad he remained an active rabbi for my own children to experience as their first Torah teacher. My years at Rabbi Shuback's synagogues remain as a blessing to his memory. And second, a story from this friend in the community. Rabbi and Mrs. Shoeback and our family were very close. The Shubachs would always stop and visit our home on many occasions, but the times I noted were on Christmas and on Easter. They would bring a Baskin-Robbins cake. That was a special treat back then. One Easter Sunday, I asked Rabbi Shuback, "Why, Rabbi, do you come and celebrate with us Catholics on our most holy days?" He laughed and he told me quite simply, "I'll tell you this, if I am right, I'll put in a good word for you, and if you're right, put in a good word for me." To me, this was the wisest thing I had ever heard in my young life. It had affected me in a way that I asked him if he would say a prayer at our wedding reception. I've carried a special place in my heart for Rabbi Shuback. His words impacted the way I've chosen to believe and live my life. I've shared this story to many people. He was a wise, peaceful man who always had a joke to share. Before ending, I wanted to give a special thanks to my mom, the late Julius Shoeback. My mom was not your stereotypical Rebbitzin, but she played a crucial role in my dad's success and ultimately the success of the Jewish community in East Chicago. Thanks, Mom. It's said in the Talmud, Yiftach Bedoro k'Shmuel Bedoro. Yiftach in his generation is like Shmuel in his generation. Every situation calls for a different leader with a different skill set. For keeping the Jewish spirit alive and for serving as a beacon of light and hope unto the community, Rabbi Julius Shoeback in his generation was the perfect leader of the Jewish community in East Chicago, Indiana. Thank you for this recognition, and may his memory always be for a blessing.
Thank you. Our next recipient is Dr. David Mayer Silver. David is considered to be the first Jewish professor at Butler. He taught Civil War and diplomatic history for 45 years and was the dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Butler during 20 years of that time. Some of his students were basketball legend Bobby Plump and now the current mayor of Carmel, Indiana. He was appointed as the president of the Safety Board of Indianapolis by mayors Philip Bate, Charles Boswell, and Albert Loesch from 1956 to 1964. He also served as president of the Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation and its board of directors. He authorized the timeless historical book, Lincoln's Supreme Court. The book addresses the efforts of the President Abraham Lincoln to save the country from civil war by his appointments to the Supreme Court. I am delighted that his son, Greg Silver, is here today to accept the award. Greg?
Thank you. Are we on? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I want to thank Sarah Ann and Gail Halperin and the staff of the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis for this great award for my father. I'm going to read my remarks as if he were speaking. This is what David looked like, my mother, and they're both gone for some years, but they were a great team. So let me proceed by saying that he would have said this, and I believe he would have said this the way I'm saying it, so it's coming from him. We all know fathers and mothers are essential to all of us. My father was an inspiration to me, and yours was just as important to you. Legendary fathers and mothers are those who live and lived their lives fully and provide extraordinary achievements and leave memories of lasting good to society. They are remembered for deeds and empathy. Prior inductees here, as Rabbi Dennis and Sandy Sasso and David Wolf, Ron Klain, and even Core are good examples of this. While these legends are few in this formal award, there are some legends to me that I know of. And this is coming from my dad, Rabbi John Stein and his wife, Susan, Jean and Marilyn Glick, the Leonard Berkowitz family, Jeff Samoyan, Robert and Sandy Borns, the Ephraimson family, the Maurer family, the Simons, Dr. Larry Einhorn, Max and Donna Nelson, just a few more that he would have said that were very important to him. Dr. Mason and Renee Goodman, Dr. Gary Fish family, Dr. John Fish family, Dr. David Josephson, and one other, Rabbi Morris Furlick, whom my dad followed in footsteps at Butler University and at IHC, and who was a stalwart of this community for many, many years, often combating the Ku Klux Klan. But even to us as Jews, let's not forget heroes are not just Jewish, or even American for that matter. And he would have said Andrew Jacobs Jr., Judy and Frank O'Bannon, and John Lewis, among others, were revered persons to this community and were legends as well. Legends include both loving fathers and mothers. I do not state these persons as an exhaustive list, which additionally includes many, many others, including all who won this award over the last 5 years. My father, Dr. David Mayer Silver, one of your inductees today, he would have been speaking for himself, is remembered now. He is remembered every day in my life as a son. It is a humbling feeling for me to remember my father's legacy. First and foremost, his love for his wife, Anita, for 60 years, and his love and dedication to his beloved daughter-in-law, Rennie, his children and grandchildren. His dedication to the synagogue as an officer and president, his dedication to Butler University as a professor, dean, and vice president, his dedication to history as the author of the timeless book, Lincoln's Supreme Court, relevant today as it was then when he wrote it, and still in print. And as well, his dedication to the city of Indianapolis as the president of the Board of Public Safety for 12 years. As to his family, his paramount concern. As to his synagogue, let's start that again. As to his family, his paramount concern. As to his synagogue, his proud devotion. As to Butler University, the hundreds and hundreds of students whose lives were educated, such as Bobby Plump and Mayor James Brainerd. As to the Indianapolis Board of Public Safety, his civilian oversight of the police and fire departments, and dedication to the community, including that very dark night he had to oversee the removal of victims when the Indianapolis Coliseum blew up. He provided part of security for the visit of President John Kennedy to Indianapolis in October of 1962, and he and I were lucky to be on the tarmac at the airport with JFK that day. Finally, I want to acknowledge an upcoming legend, my son-in-law, Craig Lee, who went into teaching inspired by David, and who is the Brownsburg School District Teacher of the Year for this year. So as David's son, or as David, I thank you for being with us today. Go forth and do good. I have a poem David would want me to read, which is very short and sweet. Bless his memory now, and bless your fathers and your mothers. This short poem, which was written by Sarah Bolton, an American poet and who was an activist for women's rights, which is very current today, and spoke at the 1851 Constitutional Convention to include the recognition of women's rights, well ahead of her time. I want to read this because it really reflects David's life and maybe our own. Voyager upon life's sea, to yourself be true, and where your lot may be, paddle your own canoe, never through the winds may rave, falter nor look back, but upon the darkest wave leave a shining track. Nobly dare the wildest storm, stem the hardest gale, brave of heart and strong of arm, you will never fail. When the world is cold and dark, keep an aim in the view, and toward the beacon mark paddle your own canoe. Every wave that bears you on to the silent shore, from its sunny source has gone to return no more. then let your an hour's delay cheat you of your due. But while it is called today, paddle your own canoe. If your birth denied you wealth, lofty estate and power, honest fame and hardly health are a better dower. If your birth denied you wealth, lofty estate and power, honest fame and hearty health are a better dower. But if these were not suffice, golden gain pursue, and to win the glittering prize, paddle your own canoe. Would you wrest the power of the fame from hand of fate? Would you write a deathless name with the good and the great? Would you bless your fellow man, heart and soul, with the holy task, and then paddle your own canoe? Would you crush the tyrant wrong in the world's free flight, with a spirit brave and strong, battle for the right, and to break the chains that bind the many to the few, to enfranchise slavish middle mind, paddle your own canoe. Nothing great is lightly won. Nothing won is lost. Every good deed nobly done, and will repay the cost. Leave to heaven in humble trust, and you will do. But if you succeed, you must paddle your own canoe. God bless my father and mother.
Thank you, Greg. Now, our next inductee is Judge William Levy. Judge Levy has an interesting story, bringing together his Sephardic roots and the ties to the first integrated area of Indianapolis with African American and Sephardic Jewish residents. Professor Susan Hyatt summed it up well. If Judge Levy were standing here as I am writing this, I would say to him, thank you, Judge Levy, for the lessons you have taught us, for your prominent role in both your own community as well as the broader Indianapolis community, for teaching us about Sephardic culture, and for embodying the values of your own life of practicing tolerance and understanding across racial and religious boundaries. You have made this world a better place and have inspired us to do the same. For not seeing barriers, connecting the two cultures he lived in, he was able to gracefully transfer his personal experiences of his early years, blending them in harmony with his later life in Indianapolis. He has educated so many honoring his heritage. Judge Levy has had a distinguished career as a lawyer, serving as a former prosecutor, public defender, and municipal court judge. He was one of the leaders of the project called the Neighborhood of Saturdays, about the relationship of the South Side Jewish community. We are so proud today to honor him as a Hoosier Jewish legend. His son Ike will accept for him.
I'm pleased to accept this on behalf of my father, William Levy. All my life, I've witnessed his love for and dedication to his Sephardic community, his family, and his profession. In our family, we've long believed that he's truly a legendary guy. I discovered that he'd written down some remarks after he got your letter, and he's given me permission to share those thoughts with you. There are times in a person's life where words fail them because there are truly just no words. There are no words to describe the emotion that I have on this occasion for this great honor that you have bestowed upon me. As I grow old and go through all the stages of my life, I often don't get the time to stop and reflect on all the many people that have imparted the wisdom, courage, and knowledge that have made me who I am. I simply had a wonderful experience growing up. My parents came from the old country in the early 1900s. As immigrants, they taught my brothers, sisters, and me to be compassionate for what is different, open to each new lesson to learn, and to always stay true to our heritage and faith. For 90 years, I have had many wonderful opportunities in my legal profession, with my beautiful family, and in my community to share this wisdom. I thank God every day that I am alive to keep learning from you all and to hopefully continue to impart my teachings to others. We're all so privileged to be part of this spiritual community. And I thank you all for sharing in this joy with us today. My special thoughts, of course, are with my now deceased wife, Faye, who passed away in January, having chaired the family for 68 glorious years. I am comforted by the fact that I know that she and all of our immigrant parents and grandparents are looking down on this celebration and blessing our lives and saying, "Visites bueno, you've done good, con salud, with health, con alegrías, with joy." Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ike. And now our final recipient today is Sheila Greenwald. My goodness, I'm so nervous about this. Is Sheila Greenwald, who has given her life to enhancing Indianapolis, the city in which she has lived in since she was 7 years old. Sheila's voluntary efforts have spanned both the Jewish and secular community. For over 65 years, she has been involved with BBYO, playing an instrumental role in the Indianapolis chapter and serving as AZA and BBG advisor, as well as an adult board chairperson to the city and region. Many Jewish organizations have been improved by her board membership and presidency. B'nai B'rith Women, Jewish Women International, the Board of Jewish Education, the Bureau of Jewish Education, the BJE Auxiliary, Jewish Community Center Youth Committee, Jewish Community Relations Council, Council of Jewish Women, and the Dolls for Democracy program. She has been a board member, president, and volunteer of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society for almost 20 years. Likewise, Sheila has contributed immensely to the secular community, serving as a volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House and as a Girl Scout troop leader and member of the Hoosier Girl Scout Board. In addition to the honor of being selected as a Hoosier Jewish legend, Sheila's many contributions have been recognized by numerous organizations. She has been the recipient of the Ivan Chalfie JCC Award for Distinguished Service to Jewish Families and Community. She has also received the Gold Key Award to International BBYO Committee for Service and was a recipient of the inaugural Distinguished Service Award in the December of 2014. At the same reception, she was honored with the renaming of the Jewish BBG chapter to Sheila Greenwald, an honor rarely bestowed on a living person. The Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis gave her the Liebert I. Mosler Community Service Award in 2015 and the Community Service Award in 2018 for leadership and commitment to the Indianapolis Jewish community. Sheila is a proud mother, as she should be. Her daughter, Rochelle, and her son, David, and his family I'm so sorry, I apologize. Her daughter, Rochelle, lives in California, as well as her daughter, Shelley, her husband, David, and their child. Robert and his wife live here in Indianapolis. I should be the least nervous about this one because Sheila and I have known each other since the day we started Sunday school at Congregation Beth El Zedek. Sheila, Mazel Tov.
Thank you, Sarah Ann. Well, you took on some of my message here, but I'm going to repeat. I became a Hoosier when I was 7 years old and we moved to Indianapolis from Cincinnati. Starting a new school can be scary, but joining the Girl Scouts helped me make new friends immediately. Soon I was just like the other girls, selling cookies, going to Camp Delwood in Speedway, and learning something new about myself. I enjoyed helping other people. As my sisters Rita and Sharon would tell you, community service became a constant and important theme in my life. When I started high school, I was asked to join the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization. So I joined the local B'nai B'rith Girls chapter called Shoshana BBG number 891. It was everything I wanted and more. Socials, religious services, community service projects, songs, leadership training, and weekend conventions. It was an amazing educational experience. Looking back, it was Jerry Kraft, a BBYO mentor at the time, who instilled in me the passion to make sure that our Jewish teens of today get the same training and outstanding opportunities that I got from BBYO. For over 50 years, I was an advisor to some of the most wonderful, talented teens. Some of them are watching today because they are now our community leaders. I made sure by using the skills I learned from BBYO, planning events, making friends, and providing encouragement. Can you imagine that one teenage organization can make your child into a mensch? But it's not magic. It takes hard work and love. That's why I feel so strongly and passionate about BBYO in Indianapolis and will never stop providing support for them. Even as an adult, my passion for helping others was a big part of my life. I got involved with B'nai B'rith Women once I was married and a new mom. When I was president of our local chapter, I was asked to represent them at a meeting of the IJHS. That's all it took. It was so exciting to help preserve our Indiana Jewish history, which would assist anyone doing research about the Jews of Indiana or their families that had settled here. I became more involved and even became president. I remember a trip that I made with Eileen Bacher, our then executive director, to Ligonier to scan the archives of that once prominent community of the 1850s. It was and is important to record these histories and to also archive them in the Indiana Historical Society vaults in downtown Indianapolis. I confess, I thoroughly enjoyed being president of the Historical Society during Indiana's bicentennial celebrations. The IJHS was able to reach so many more people all over the state to get photos and stories of their community events. One idea was this Legends program. It was created during the enthusiasm at one of our committee meetings. One of my other guilty pleasures has been collecting stories for the Indiana Jewish History book, which we publish every year. These books truly make the stories of our history come alive for Hoosiers to read in years to come. So I was active in a lot of other non-for-profits, which Sarah Ann has already mentioned, so I won't repeat. But I was always at a meeting, my kids would tell you, and dinner was always late. Speaking of my kids, I can't forget to mention them. Shelley, my oldest, and her husband, David, live in California. Their daughter, Adina, a junior at IU Bloomington. Robert and his wife, Erin, live here in Indianapolis with my twin grandchildren, Edison and Danielle. And my youngest, Rochelle, a teacher, also lives in California. And yes, they were all BBYO alumni and all members of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society. Today is a big day. I look at these honorees today and I am humbled. It's called the Hoosier Jewish Legends Award, but I don't feel like a legend. My enthusiasm and commitment to community service started many years ago. All of these organizations helped me in my quest for service to others. To the Indiana Jewish Historical Society and to those watching today, I thank you for this honor and recognition. Thank you.
Not going to let you go away quite yet, Sheila, so I'll socially distance and ask you to stay there within camera's view. And if everyone can see me, I'll be on this screen. I think this is going to work.
Okay.
I think many of you know that you've been called to service for different reasons, and there were different people of influence. Many have been shared with you here today in your lives. But I will tell you candidly, I wouldn't be where I am today without Sheila's direction and guidance. As a youth advisor to BBYO, there were countless times where she kept me on the straight and narrow. And I guess I'm here to thank her for that, because who knows what kind of shenanigans I would have gotten involved in if it not for her watchful eye. All those bus rides up and back from Munster for BBYO conventions and dances. But I'd like to share with you something that many of her family, friends, loved ones, and colleagues put together for Sheila. It's a memento book and a recognition in connection with today's honor. And on behalf of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society Board, I'd like to read our contribution to this book. On behalf of myself and the entire board of directors of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society, it is with great pleasure that we acknowledge and celebrate your being selected as a 2020 Hoosier Jewish Legend. Since 2016, the Indiana Jewish Historical Society has bestowed this honor on a select few, celebrating Hoosiers who have created a significant and lasting impact in their communities. Your participation and leadership in the local, national, and international Jewish community and the Indianapolis community at large surely qualifies you for this great honor. Your innumerable and lasting contributions to the society cannot be captured herein, but please know that we are forever grateful for your time, effort, dedication to ensuring the Jewish experience in Indiana has been captured and can be shared with generations to come. Please accept this honor and everything that it is meant to represent. Sincerely, Kevin Krulowich, Indiana Board, Jewish Historical Society.
Thank you very much.
Just a couple closing remarks. This year marks our 5th year of celebrating Hoosier Jewish Legends. I thought it was wonderful that we received some acknowledgement from outside the community, and I'd like to read a letter of recognition received today from Congressman Andre Carson, dated August 30th, 2020. Dear friends, it is my honor to welcome you all to the Indiana Jewish Historical Society's 2020 Hoosier Jewish Legends Hall of Fame induction celebration. Thank you all for your virtual presence here today. During turbulent times in our country, events like this allow us a space to celebrate past contributions and inspire the next generation of leaders. This event plays a critical role in recognizing and celebrating Hoosier Jewish legends who've made significant contributions across the state of Indiana. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to all those honored this afternoon: Dr. Ann Gileados, Sheila Greenwald, Judge William Levy, Rabbi Julius Shoeback of blessed memory, and Dr. David Silva of blessed memory. Thank you for your lifetime of hard work and dedication in service to your communities. On behalf of the 7th Congressional District of Indiana, I would like to thank the Indiana Jewish Historical Society for organizing this important event and for your work in our community. Sincerely, Andre Carson. As you know, IJHS was founded in 1972, and I'd like to thank my fellow board members and all past leadership for bringing us to this point. We are looking forward to celebrating our 50th anniversary in 2022, so please keep an eye out for some exciting news about future programs. If you're not currently a member, but are interested in finding out more about the Society and in joining in our work, please visit our website at www.ijhs.org. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook and Instagram, or drop us a line with questions or comments to ijhs@ijhs.org. We all look forward to a time where we can gather together in person and celebrate the lives and stories and legacies of our great Indiana Jewish women and men. Again, on behalf of the Indiana Jewish Historical Society and our programming co-partner, the Indianapolis Jewish Federation, Greater Indianapolis, I'd like to thank all of you for your attendance today. God bless you. Be well. Thank you.